All right. Give me just a second here. I'm making our presenters co-host. One of the sessions ran a pinch late, so give me just a second to get it started, everyone. Yeah. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome to You Have an AI Policy, So What? My name is Veronica, and it's my pleasure to moderate this session. We have three presenters, and I'm going to introduce them in a second. I will say they want this to be an interactive discussion. So please feel free to either put your thoughts in the chat or raise your hand and comment. This session is being recorded. So if you would prefer that your voice or face not appear on the recording, please use the chat. Otherwise, you can use whichever method is better for you. So our three presenters today are Jim Vernon from Ames Community College. He's the Dean for Business and Technology. Farah Bennani, PhD from Elgin Community College, who's the Dean of Math, Science, and Engineering. And Chris Luchs from Community College of Denver, who's the Dean of Business and Manufacturing. And I am going to hand it over to them. My request is, until you're part of the discussion, please do keep yourselves muted. I'm going to mute myself and hand off to our presenters. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. So one of the things we'll be doing is we really wanted this to be sort of an open format Q&A. So one of the things we're going to do is we'll type our initial questions into the chat, and then feel free to respond to them yourself. We'll take a few minutes answering it ourselves, and then we'll open it up to anyone else who would like to discuss what's going on in their institution. So one of the impetuses for this meeting was as always, our institutions are coming up with new policies and new ways of giving us guidance on how things should react. But there's always something that happens between the guidance and what our ideal is and what happens when we actually implement it and are actually having these processes and procedures being when they meet real people and they meet the real world and what happens and how do we handle that. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the first question. And the first question I have for my colleagues are, where are you seeing disequilibrium in your areas of business, education, or other industries? And so as a two-parter, is this due to AI or another factor? So who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead, Farah.
Well, the AI disequilibrium is basically emerging across multiple niches, if you want. So you have in the business, you have the rapid transformation of the operation as well as the decision making, the outcome. How we engage customer. In education, we think of in terms of assessment, in terms of how we even develop content, how we provide the learner with any information related on how we teach, and also in terms of what are we trying to assess. Is it how the student is using the tool, or are we assessing the artifact that the student has been provided to us by using the tool? So you have across all of those areas. And then when we look at the intersection between the workforce development and how we need to provide a better skills for the student to fulfill the need of the workforce and the community, how we have this integration or marriage between all of this technology going on right now. So I have more, but I will defer to you, and then I will add later. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go next if that's okay.
That's fine.
I think there are a couple of major disruptors. Certainly AI is one of them. The other ones that I would mention, I think the first would be automation, which AI also threatens and is now doing. But we've been automating jobs out of the economy for decades. And we often in the public sphere see that people blame trade, which is also a disruptor. We are much more global, and we're global in a way with new technologies. So I think those three factors cross-cut and they often reinforce each other.
Yeah, and like what I typed in the chat just now is yes, definitely automation everywhere from robots to self-checkout.
Right.
Because remember when there used to be a person, all the lines used to have people who actually rang up your vegetables and rang up your groceries for you and then bagged them for you. And now it's like, no, it's convenience. It's self-checkout, except for whenever your URL doesn't, your PRL, your PLU and your other things don't work. And then you check. Or you
Right.
scan multiple items by accident. So there's lots of different things that go on in there. But for me, like what I see a lot of is really the disequilibrium has been occurring, just like everyone else has been saying, for a variety of factors. If I look specifically at AI, the majority of disruption I see is reduction of entry level positions and internships. That's the other huge area that we're seeing at my institution that are disappearing because folks are um, reducing their staffing. There's a huge push for additional productivity measures and squeezing out whatever productivity they can using AI. The challenge is nobody knows what to expect, and so the question is that one person's productivity may not be another person's productivity. I think that's part of it. I think the other thing I see is, of course, we were just talking about this in Dr. Wiley's session, the prevalence of cheating and using AI in particular as an executive help modality as opposed to assistive. So I think that's one of the things that we see, and we see this big focus on how can we teach and then that's something that's being added to a lot of different folks' thought process is in addition to teaching the outcomes that we're required to teach, now we have to also start thinking about how do we add in an additional outcome of how to use these technologies ethically and going through there. And then of course you have students who are like, well, I don't use that, but how come I'm getting penalized for not using it, but someone else is not getting penalized for using it? So those are the different things that I have seen from various conversations and observations throughout my institution. So I see that's definitely part of it. Obviously, the increased costs, inflation, logistical issues, things like that has not done anyone any favors when it comes to maintaining a common business practice and being able to do that strategic planning and reliable cost information that most businesses need to survive with their narrow profit margins for most of them. So that's what I've seen in my area. So go ahead. Any questions or comments from everybody else? Let's see. I know Brandon put in there. A lot of courses require writing and non-original research. Our rhetoric and writing, as well as our technical design and communication departments, are unhappy to say the least. Faculty generally get more upset as we move towards institutionally increasing institutional licensing for AI for students and their lack of transparency in their work. I agree. I think that's something else that we're starting to see more and more of, where you're seeing this disconnect of the colleges, well, I should say the workforce is saying you need to teach students how to use this technology. You need to train them. But then we're also seeing the pushback of, well, what if we don't want them to use it? Or I've even had students who say that they are, conscientious objectors to AI for a variety of different reasons, whether it is from the artistic side and an idea of expression and how AI is impacting the arts versus, and also there's environmental concerns and different things like that we get pushed back on. We just recently had an issue here in Colorado where one of our major universities is going to roll out ChatGPT access for all students. And then the faculty were like, wait. And the shared governance model came out, and then even some student groups were protesting giving out ChatGPT without providing training, without providing a consistent messaging and communication about how the college views AI informed work. I'll put it that way, as opposed to plagiarism. I mean, most of us, that's what we do. We go, oh, it's some form of plagiarism. But the challenge you start getting into is when you start getting into paraphrasing, you start getting into different pieces like that, you start wondering what's going on with that. Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Uh, Playing off that thought, but as usual, worried that it's more extreme or that that's an issue that is being supplanted by a more urgent issue. This is going to sound like a workforce bias, but I'm equally concerned here about the arts and sciences, particularly. So I'll address it in terms of the writing piece and the concerns about that, which have been around for a while. My concern is this, and let's stick with the liberal arts, if you will, stick with the transfer degrees so they're not going to the workforce. But where are they going after they transfer? They're going into the workforce. We're all going into the workforce. So I'll use my own work as an example. I have a lot of things I have to write. And there is absolutely no way that I can get my work done without being good at prompting AI.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in a small plug here for Superhuman, which is now owned by Grammarly. But what I've learned is that Superhuman is learning my voice. So it drafts emails for me. I do not send an email just because Superhuman drafts it. But I'm looking at the drafts today in April and remembering back even to November and thinking, even by November, and I'd been using it for, I don't know, 10 months, it just wasn't really writing the way I want to write and the way I would normally write. So there's no way I could send an email that Superhuman drafted and not have people say, what is he sending me an AI generated email for? Or why am I getting that response?
Mm-hmm.
I have, and I promised the folks that I support and supervise that I would send them at some point randomly an AI written email, and they did not know. I sent one early and everybody could tell. I said, this is obvious, but at some point I'm going to send you an AI email, sorry, and you won't know. And it's true. It doesn't mean I'm done when it drafts, but I could not
Mm-hmm.
even get through my inbox and other things as well. I'll give you a different example of writing that deans do, if you will, and that others do. We're in the beginning stages of writing our assurance argument for HLC.
Yep.
And HLC has responded to our compliance officer that, yes, it's okay to leverage AI, not to have AI write it, but be open. And so it gets to the ethical use. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
really talking about the productivity use. And we'll see in a point I'll make later that this is going to be required. Businesses are
Mm-hmm.
already saying we're not hiring anybody without AI skill. And I don't mean just the ethical use, I mean the ability to do 4 times as much work. That's what they're hiring. That's what businesses always hire. They hire production, they hire the capability. And what they're expecting now is the capability to, as one of our advisory members put it, the capability to leverage AI as if it were your staff,
Mm-hmm.
which means you're being hired entry level as a supervisor of AI in a sense. So I think that's consistent with your point, but I think it's now almost being obsoleted. Not that ethics are obsolete, not what I'm saying, but if we're stuck on ethics, we're not going to get to, how do we actually teach this? And I don't know. So I am challenging myself this summer to require my students to use AI. How am I going to do that? I'm busy figuring it out.
Yeah.
We owe it to
I
them.
will add, Jim, any generative AI tool is a supplement.
Yes.
Think of it like a TA.
Yes. Exactly right.
Years ago, okay, someone will be doing the work. So it's not about replacing your what you do because you have your voice in whatever. There's a learning curve that also happen for any AI tool to get to know you and
Right.
exactly what you need and for that. But then again, at the meantime, is nothing more than augmenting your work.
That's
You are
correct.
doing your work. It's what can I help you? So rather than you calling me, hey, could you do this part? Now you have 24/7 that tool. I look at it
Right.
the same thing from the student. Yes, we have, for me, AI from the student lens and educators, It is nothing more than adaptive learning, which we have been doing, Chris and I,
Yeah.
since 2006 in our classes. So it is learning, it is personalizing the courses and what the student need to know. The same thing, they cannot text me or email me at 3 a.m., but there's a tool. And also, I teach my students how to make their own tool and the chat box. This way, they can have this interaction. They can have this free tutoring beside what we provide at the college
Right.
for them. So it is not looking at it, the connotation most of the time, the first one, like it's cheating. Can we also look at the help that could be provided to the students, also to the faculty as well?
Mhm.
And it is learning to teach in a different way or to present the content into a different way, which is challenging for faculty, for some faculty, simply because there is comfort in remaining how we do things. We have to be upfront if possible, or at least hand in hand and in parallel with what's going on. A lot of our students, they know more in technology than the faculty. And to add to what Chris mentioned earlier, I don't want to be a student in some colleges because there's no setup policy that everyone can apply, and I respect the academic freedom. So we can have students in gym class, yeah, it's okay. You can use AI. And then when they switch to Chris, you cannot do it.
Mhm.
So there you have
Right.
it. Within the same semester, they have to keep track who allow, who does not allow.
Right.
We compete with AI. And I want to clarify my sentence. It's not that AI is taking something. I am more competitive when I'm using AI than someone who is not using the tool.
Right. And that's why I'm actually going to require it, not just allow it.
Mhm.
I'm developing lessons to say, okay, here's a question. We have 5 minutes to answer this, not homework. And it's a hard question. So what do we do?
For my online class for the discussion, I provide them the tool, but
Right.
also the rubric, because
Right.
at the same time as I'm asking them and teaching them how to learn the tool, indirectly I'm also doing the AI literacy and the
Yeah.
digital literacy to help them assess. It's not because you have it back from online or any tool that is accurate. Assess the origin, assess how accurate is the information, especially in my field in science, as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I see is I see a lot of inequity in education as far as we have our policies for AI, we have plans to move forward and use AI, but right now we're limited because we don't have the budget to purchase the AIs we want, and so we end up with whatever AI we have on hand. An example would be Copilot,
Yes,
because but that varies
because we
like
have
even
Microsoft. Yes.
exactly because like even within our own system there's a variation because
There
we
is.
every college purchases its own license of Microsoft 365, and depending on what version they purchase, it depends whether they get Copilot with AI, Copilot Pro, or like it just there's all these different versions of Copilot with and leveling of AI integration. And so you have that aspect where even among our institutions within a system, there's inequality because not everyone has access to the same um,
Yeah.
AI level of AI because what they're experimenting with is whatever their college provides, and no colleges has the funding right now to be able to purchase a license. And when we have pilots, the problem is then you get heavy users and you get non-users, and then once you run out of your number of credits or your subscription amount or pilot amount, then everything shuts down, and we're seeing some issues with that with some of the AI generation tools that are coming out by our LMSs and things like that, where students are no longer able to access the same test because the previous test, other students who did it earlier in the semester or earlier in a pilot were using the AI adaptive testing, and now that's shut down because we've hit our limit.
Yeah.
So So those are some different things we have to think about as we're going ahead and putting through it. And we kind of already jumped into question 2, so I will post that now. And thank you, Dana, for talking your comment about productivity is great until we lose our humanness. Yes, I agree. I mean, all of us in education have heard the mantra of do more with less. And that's something that we're seeing a lot of as we're out there. Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I also wanted to first thank Dana for a question and also address it. The humanity part of it. When I talked about productivity, I often leap, when I think about automation, I often leap to Dickens or Sinclair or these dystopian scenarios, and I do worry about them. I'll give the more contemporary example. If any of you listen to NPR, just on Monday or Tuesday, a segment on yet another attorney who used AI for a brief and got called out for it in the Supreme Court of Nebraska. You could say, okay, human mistake, but what was missing was his own humanity. He didn't add his own humanity, which would have told him that the citations were fictitious, the quotations were absolutely bogus. And understandably, he was under pressure, but that's the skill. And I know that's not quite the point you were making, Dana, but it is an element of humanness that is still absolutely necessary. And
Well,
you can relate that to the ethical use as well.
Well, I think it's also I really like about your comment. I put it in chat as well. Is that I like that you pulled, like you're looking back at authors who were writing during the time of the Industrial Revolution
Right.
because this is very similar. They were experiencing a very similar change of the traditional way of doing changing rapidly in front of their faces. And they were seeing it moving from horses to motor driven steam engines, different things like that. And they're seeing all of this different technology being implemented and seeing how their lives were changing versus what they had known. So I think that's another good possible repository for us to direct our students at from a general education or a transfer oriented piece is how do we go ahead and look at this newest latest revolution based on technology or disruption based on technology with those that came before. So the second question is,
My
oh, go
apologies,
ahead.
Chris. I just
Okay,
want to
oh, go
add,
ahead.
Dana, I just put kind of, yes, I hear you loud and clear. Again, it's back to, it's not because it's a tool, we have to use it. What is our voice? How are we, what are our filters, basically? And then we can, the list could go on and on, depending on the field, depending, but you have the common theme in terms of, okay, well, how can we use, anyone, before I continue, anyone in the audience teaches computer science beside Chris? I know you. Anyone in the audience teaching or has any or seen computer science. So some students that are using the tool and copying the code. And again, this is where the subject matter expertise and the faculty, you'll get the answer with the code. Well, has not been yet covered. So right there, yeah, it's a teaching moment for the student, but it's about clarifying to the student, you have these tools, but at the meantime, uh, know the parameter and know the lane for that. So thank you. Sorry, Chris.
Sure, no worries. But another case there is like, yeah, I mean, for me, I've seen less and less, and also to Jennifer's point as well, is that I've also seen a lot of people do, especially for quantitative
Yep.
reporting, that there's less and less critical analysis of these AI generated things. There's just this inherent trust that everything will be correct and everything will be everything that AI tells them is true. It's on the internet. It must be true. Well, AI said this. It must be true.
Yep.
And I see that as well. And so that sort of gets into our second question, which is how is this equilibrium manifesting in the workforce and how employers and employees work? And speaking of computer science, also in my area, there are also some issues in accounting where we're looking at what is the impact of AI for our students. And what we're seeing is that students are still being hired for accounting positions. The difference is instead of coming in as a bookkeeping or an intern or something like that, they have to wait until they get a higher degree or a higher certification to get hired, because now companies want accountants that are going to serve the role of copy editor of the AI information, where AI they're going in and they're checking and sampling the AI record keeping to make sure that it's doing it correctly in accordance to GAAP. And so like that's what we're seeing. The same thing from computer science is a lot of the gripes from a lot of programmers is I became a programmer to develop apps, to develop programs, to develop games. Now I'm in the industry and all I'm doing is I'm editing spaghetti code. I'm going in, they're using a vibe coding, they're using something else to generate code, and then I am going ahead and having to go through and fix all the bugs. And that's all I do. And so now instead of being a developer, now I'm pretty much just a tester, or I'm going in, I'm just doing bug testing, and I'm just doing editing, where I've got to get my readers on, I got to read through lines and lines of code, and I've got to go ahead and make sure that everything is lining up correctly and hitting to our actual databases and setups.
I'll add what the workforce is experiencing right now. It is specifically, and you touched on this earlier, really defining the roles for any job. And it is the change or the shift that is happening from the execution of a task into an AI oversight and validation. At the meantime, you have the increase in the AI literacy to address the point that and the discussion happening right now in the chat, and also anything that is routine. So the work is becoming more AI augmented rather than AI replaced. However, the shift is not happening quickly because you have, well, if when we talk about COVID, okay, the digital divide, well, AI is doing even worse than that in terms of the haves and have not, as well as beside, and I'm biologist, so the whole ecological part, so we can have another presentation on that, but also in terms of what are we trying to, as an organization, when they think of hiring, what are the policies, what is the impact, as well as what is the end goal. When we think of AI and when we think of the workforce and looking at the future, it's not which tool I can use to help me. The other way around, it's what will AI think of doing? And you have the whole debate. Is there thought process or no? I will say yes. So it's not which tool can help me prep my micro lecture. If AI is the faculty, what will AI present to the student to help them achieve this learning?
Mm-hmm. Well, and like that's the piece. It's also led to a lot of employers using AI as a silver bullet for any of their woes. I see them looking at that like it used to be go to YouTube to see how to do something. Now it's just plug it into an AI and AI will tell you how to do it. And it may or may not work. It may depends on your scenario, it depends on their sources. And like that's the piece that I see is, and the other piece I see is I see a lot of executives that really don't have a goal in mind. They're just like, we want to leverage AI, but I don't know what that looks like. And so what they do is they put pressure on their employees to go ahead and use AI. And you're seeing some of that in the headlines, where you're having some large organizations going ahead and saying, we will not hire a new position unless a manager can tell me why this position is needed and it can't be replaced by AI. And if we don't have a cogent argument, then that position won't be hired. So that won't put that position line won't be approved. And so like that's the different piece that we're looking at now is now we're looking at where we're going. But then I also have different fields where, like in welding and the trades, where in my area where they're like, no, 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 we want to be as human as possible. We want as many humans as possible. We just can't get enough people on site. So therefore, or who can do the work. So therefore, we have to go to automation. We have to implement cobots and different things like that and do automation to be able to handle the work that's being asked of us and to be able to produce that product on time. We have to go ahead and do that. And of course, by bringing in that automation, then they lose jobs because of that, because now they've been forced, because there wasn't the workforce available, the labor pool available at the time they needed it. So now they're automating it there. So I mean, I see a lot of employers, especially the trades, lamenting, just the fact that the automation's been forced on them, and it's just because they haven't had enough people in the trades to meet their needs.
If I could add to that, Chris,
Sure.
There's an aspect of this that is not good for job seekers, but is good for incumbent workers, which is the possibility, and in some situations, there's some evidence that AI use can be a leveler. One of my former employers, Boston Consulting Group, did an internal study and they controlled it. They made some people, some of their freshly minted MBAs, they made some of them use AI, and they basically made some of them not use AI. They found a performance improvement, but they also found that their lower performers improved the most, which meant they retained more of them in an environment where retention is tough.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a whole lot of replication of that study, but it intuitively makes sense to me that AI usage can be a leveler. Again, not if you're ignoring it and just mailing it in, but if you're working with AI and you learn to use it, you improve your skill, you improve your productivity. And I don't mean to put it in stark terms, but then maybe you can keep your job.
Well, that, and then you also have people who are leveraging AI to be overemployed.
Right.
People who are working, especially remote. This is a concern for remote workers. And I think the other thing that you have, and Jim, you have a question of, could you share where you found that
Yeah, I
study
just
if you
saw
did?
that, Dana. I will try to find it. I don't have it handy, but I will look for it. And I don't know how to share after the conference is over because I'm not likely to be able to do it now.
It's in the Discord, so we'll have a Discord where we'll be able to put slides or
Okay.
questions and things like that
Okay.
for each of the sessions. So you'd be able to
I'll
post
try
it
to work
there.
on that this afternoon, honestly, but I will get to it. And I'll share it. Thank
Or you
you
can
for the
provide, or
question.
you can provide your email if you want, and they can email you as
Oh,
well.
that's true. Yeah,
That's
I'll
something
just put
else
in
you
the
can
chat.
do.
Anyone's welcome to email me.
Yeah, and so the other piece is that I'm seeing AI really being used by where I'm seeing AI heavily being used is anywhere there's a process. That's what I'm seeing. A lot of people are trying to automate their processes as much as possible. So they can, so that's the other thing I'm seeing is former jobs of like office manager or administrative assistant, different things like those, customer service type stuff that's being replaced by AI agents. I have a person who uses a AI enabled assistant to respond and chat with potential clients on their website. When they call in to their number, they get the AI receptionist who translates their verbal information into a text to the owner, and walks people through options, with the focus of getting people to a call to action, which is basically getting them to buy something or getting them to request a quote or something like that, as opposed to providing advice for free. And it goes over some common questions that are there. And if it can't answer the question, it says, "Well, thank you very much. I will make sure I forward this question on to someone who can answer your question, and you'll get an email back in da 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 da." And so he's programmed all of these responses for his AI, and it's helped his business. But the thing is that's replacing somebody. It's replacing one or two different jobs that someone else could have done. And so that's the other thing you're seeing that owners of companies are benefiting from AI, but the actual employees of companies are not necessarily benefiting from the use of AI as a whole. you're seeing instances of where employees are benefiting, but overall, the employers are the ones who are benefiting more than the actual employees.
I
Yeah.
just want to comment on what you put, Chris. Yes, the software HR are using to uh, basically sift through the applications for the hiring process, for the resume. It's mainly looking for keywords for that. While I appreciate the technology to be used, sometimes it is not serving the candidate because the software is looking for specific keywords for that. And at the meantime, quite frankly, I do, if you ask me, it is not professional because people submit their application at 2 a.m. and you get the reply an hour later. The committee met and blah, blah. It's a pre-copied
Yeah.
email. Well, I challenge if there's any committee at 3 a.m. that has reviewed the applicant, the resume. So again, it's back to what Dana, what she said. In a sense, I'm like, okay, well, how can you add this human touch and add to it? Uh, I don't have, as a computer science myself, I don't have any problem using software. However, could you add a layer to humanize this communication and this contact that will be happening, whether in the classroom or the setup or any application of any software? So.
Thank you. And Dana put a question of, do I think that jobs will focus on AI review or AI evaluation for these processes? And my response was, I think they'll just exist. They'll modify existing job descriptions. So they'll have more review, more evaluation duties attached to those job descriptions. And then so you won't necessarily see new job lines. It'll just simply say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we have budget for. And then this will be additional duties that people will have. I think the other purpose of that is, again, it goes in that line of employers having managers justify new positions and why they can't be done with AI. I think it goes into that line there where people will be like, as people leave their workforce due to being overworked or just feeling that they're not undervalued, that then whenever the company looks to replace them, that's when you're going to see probably some new job lines come out, because that's the way it happens. It's always, new job lines are always a lagging indicator. It's when you lost enough workforce, you work your, like, historically it's always been, employees are worked to the point where they leave, and then after someone leaves, then what happens is they go, oh, they were doing three people's jobs, so now we're going to create three new positions for it. There's always that piece. It's kind of like in university life. University life, we're always like, oh, well, the enrollment has to get to a certain level before we can justify a full-time position. The problem is it's a full-time job to launch a program. And so you're doing that off of working with adjuncts. And so sometimes you may or may not have funding, whether you're leveraging it through Perkins or other grants or other types of things to fund that full-time position while you're trying to build that program. Yeah, yeah. So I see Jim there talking about the dot-com boom.
I think there is a reasonable analogy there. I think that it's not perfect, of course, and it seems to me that every technological revolution gets exponentially faster than the previous one to a certain extent. The example I'll take from AI is you and I were talking about similar issues in November, and in February, the world seemed to change dramatically. Literally, then that a lot of agentic AI rolled out and was being discovered more rapidly by industry. I noted a clear difference this semester in advisory meetings from last semester, night and day difference across. It's still anecdotal, but I guess oversee a dozen or so programs with advisory, and more than half of them are reporting a huge uptick in their own need and use for AI and AI talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the anthropic models have really sort of
Yeah.
pushed. Now that you have AI with personalities, I think is one of the things that you're seeing. But again, there's that whole piece we've had in previous discussions about. I really don't like the label in, artificial intelligence because it's not.
Yeah.
It should be, probabilistic responses is really what it we should better is a better characterization because that's all it is. Is it's going which word follows this word, which word has the highest probability of following this word. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Although I do look at agentic AI differently,
yeah.
and I think that's what's changed. I'm wondering if this is the right time to share my slide, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, go
It's
for it.
it's
Yep.
two slides. Sorry, it's two slides. So if I could
Yeah.
do that,
And no worries.
because
And if you have any troubles, I have it as well. So
yeah, let's see if everybody can see that.
yep, it's
Okay, so
there.
this is maybe 2025 for some and 2023 for others, but chatbots came along, and when we talk about the roots of the plagiarism concerns and the ethical use concerns, that encapsulates it for me. It wasn't the only issue, but yeah, students okay, homework solved, right? And what did we do? Getting back to the premise of this whole session, well, we need new policy and procedures. So we fast forward a year or whatever it might be, and we've got that new policy and procedure, and we have detection software, and we're all set, except employers down here saying, yeah, we're hiring, but only if you can manage a whole team of bots. And now students with agentic AI, they don't just have to copy something. In fact, that's too much work. Copying AI is no longer as necessary. If you use the paid versions, it'll create the doc for you, right? And so there's even
And with
less that
agentic
students
AI,
have
it'll
to
also
do.
submit it for you.
Right, if they put, yeah,
In most LMSs, it'll
yeah,
also attach it and submit it for you.
right.
And answer the essay questions for you too.
Yep. Well,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing is like we were so focused on generative AI that no one was really thinking about what the next step was,
right,
and that step happened within a year.
right.
And like
Less than a
that's the
year.
other
Yeah,
thing is the speed at which this goes. And that was some of our initial, off camera discussion we were having as we were getting ready for this presentation is there's that lag issue that we've
right.
been talking about where our policies and procedures are so woefully lagging with the speed of change in technology that there's always going to be a catch-up game. And like David talked about the arms race, and like
Yeah,
that's the thing is some of the facts and figures he was presenting there sort of tells you, when you've got companies that are, you know, dumping in tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars into this industry to grow this industry, and then you have your normal, higher education institution and our normal budgets. Those are the one of the things that there's no way we're going to be able to keep up with in an arms race. There's no way we're going to be successful in arms race. So the question becomes, it's not necessarily just waving the white flag and letting people use whatever. It's figuring out what is going to be your mode forward and how you not only as an institution but also as an individual are going to go ahead and what you're going to allow, what you're going to disallow, how are you going to teach students. And like that's the frustration for students that I've seen lately is number one, students who don't use AI being accused of using AI because their writing is very AI like. And the other issue is, which is a huge issue at my institution because we have a lot of non-native speakers, people who are doing English as a second language, or maybe they're third, or maybe they're fourth, or maybe they're fifth. And the thing is that you also have issues with um, instructors. Some instructors allow it, some instructors don't allow it. Some are zero tolerance, so as soon as they catch you once, you're done, you fail the entire class. Others are, no, I'll let you rewrite it, I'll let you do that. It's very much like late policies where everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It all falls under the guidance that we have in a policy. It all follows procedure that we have laid out, but the students are just desperate for consistency. They're just like, I just want to be able to go to any class and just have a consistent idea of what I'm allowed and what I'm not allowed to do, because most of our students are looking at this as as an add-on. They're looking at this like from a gaming. In a gaming culture, we have something called an add-on. It is something you can use as a third-party device. You can apply it to your game, and it improves your quality of life. Makes the image looks better, reduces the clutter on your interface, makes something that's really very click heavy into something that only uses
Think
one click,
Chrome
etc.
extension type of thing.
Yeah, like a Chrome extension. And so basically students are looking at AI as a add-on. They're not looking at it as a cheat. They're like, no, this is just an add-on. This is this is improving my quality of life. This is a quality of life improvement. This isn't cheating. And so you run into those pieces there.
I will add to address currently where I am, I co-chair. We have the AI governance committee, and I co-chair it with our CIO. And we do have representative from almost every department, including students. And we're looking in terms of, as a college, what is our governance and the charter in terms of AI from student service area, because a lot of schools are using them to make that's efficiency quickly for the application and all of that. Look at it from the tool faculty will be able to use, and we also have student representative as well, the voice of the student. And the plan is indeed kind of, okay, we'll be creating those tools. So Jim emailed me, hey, I found this tool. That's fine. And we have, and it's also the IT colleagues are on it. And again, look at it from the cybersecurity, the data, where this will be housed and how this will be efficient. So that's the plan. Will it be bulletproof? No, but at least we'll be addressing in a sense, and we're in the process of basically addressing in a sense of different requests. And how can we, well, you cannot say no, because any faculty can use their professional development and have subscription and use their Gmail on the college email to do the work. There's no way, I mean, you cannot police. You can police, but that's not professional. and it's more of, okay, here's a list of curated. Those have been vetted from the IT, and we'll be creating a website as well, and this will be the hub. We're looking at 3 areas, from use of AI in teaching, use of AI professional development for faculty and staff, and the use of AI as a tool to help the students.
All right. So I think we're winding down here. So I put the last question in the chat. Feel free to share your predictions, because we want to hear from you. So feel free to tell us what your thoughts are for the future expectations of AI in the education and in the workplace. So feel free to give us your predictions.
Could you please unmute? We don't want to just hear our voice. If you can unmute yourself and then just share with us.
Yep.
Real quickly, but not to answer the question. Just a quick, I dropped the survey link in, so if you all can pull that out of chat and give our awesome presenters some feedback, and then I'll hand it back for our last minute to answer their question.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of my predictions is that, AI is not going away. I think we can say that for a fact. So I think just general AI skills, prompt engineering, for example, will become a commonplace expectation for our students as they enter into the workforce. So we as educators need to be prepared to teach them those prompt engineering skills, in addition to critically reviewing and analyzing output. So understanding that we cannot take this information at face value and assume it is 100% accurate, but instead take the knowledge and information and education that we have to review what it's giving, understanding that AI is always going to be biased based on the input that it's receiving. So I think those will just be commonplace expectations for the workplace. And that starts now with what we're doing in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Anyone else want to Hey, I'm gonna say, anyone else want to be the final voice, the final prediction? This is your chance to be the final voice. If you always want to do that.
How can you mold the future? Tell us your ideas. Tell us your ideas. I put mine in the chat.
I do like Jennifer's satellites will be falling from the sky. No kidding.
Yeah.
Related to unvetted statistical predictions. I'm like, oh no. It's all right. Well, thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day. And we've got a few more sessions for you as we move throughout the day. I look forward to seeing some of you at my next session, which is like in a couple minutes. Thank you, Jim and Farah. Always a pleasure to chat with you. And everyone else, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Give
much
our
for
everyone.
presenters a
attending.
hand.
Thank
They did
you.
amazing.
And thank you,
so
Veronica.
much, Chris, Jim, and Farah. All right.
Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Veronica. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, all.